Hi, my name is Nevin, and this is a continuation of my interview series with the members of Congregation X. The last time I sat down with Alexandria, this time I'll sit down with Parish, which was really good to do because I've known him the least amount of time, so I learned a lot. Before I cut to the interview, if you have any questions that I didn't think to ask, feel free to use the comment section, and I will see you at the end.
We go down to the river to wash ourselves clean if the ice weren't too deep to get all that we need. Hope heaven might hold you.
Here we are in the danger room. We'll call this session 2 because I did my first session with Alexandria, co-founder to co-founder. We sat down, we talked a little bit about Congregation X. You volunteered to go next. Now, I may not necessarily recall the dates, but I know that we met through the Earth Eagle North open mic.
Yes.
I don't know if we ever were in the same room before that and just didn't know each other, but that was when I first knew that Parish existed. And I also know that you're not from this area. So maybe we can start by talking a little bit about what brought you to Earth Eagle from where you were originally from.
Oh boy. Well, it all started when I was born. No. So I had lived up in Plymouth, and I had met some good friends down in the area. I had actually dated a girl in the area for a minute and gotten to know the Seacoast music scene a little bit. I had come down to see Sneaky Miles. I had heard tell of like great open mics and things down here, so I decided to come down for a show. It was the Auspicious Brew open mic. I can't remember how I found out about it, but I ended up going one week. And next thing you know, I go to this open mic. I play some songs, and Ryan and Andy happen to be there. Ryan Walters and Andy Klazensky. They happen to be there, and they say, "Hey, you're really cool. You should come out to Earth Eagle North." And I was like, "Well, you guys are really cool. Are you going to be there?" And they said,
They
"Yes."
said no.
Well, yeah, naturally they wouldn't be there, and that's why they're inviting me.
Right.
So yeah, I went over to Earth Eagle North, and it happened to be the same day as my good friend John Eric Trigestad starting. And we all went in, and it was one of the coolest open mic experiences I had ever been to, because everybody was playing original music. And I hadn't seen that before. I had played at an open mic in the up in Plymouth called The Grotto, where the original music is allowed, but it's not, a lot of people aren't necessarily playing original music. But Earth Eagle, it's like people are focusing on playing originals or jamming together, clapping along with each other. So next thing you know, I go there, I have a great night, stay out talking with people until God knows when in the morning. And I'm like, all right, I'm just going to try and come back every week now, if at all possible.
Okay.
And then eventually I realized, who's this man standing in the back of the room looking like this all the time, and then every once in a while getting up and playing incredible guitar. And I think from there, maybe I sat down and played cajon with you guys once, or there was a piano at some point. I can't quite remember how it actually happened.
Is there a correlation to this man and you playing with us?
Well, yeah, so this man's standing like this, and anybody watching this video who knows him knows that Nevin Brown tends to stand in the back of a room very quietly and very just watching everything, very observationally. And sometimes he'll have cards. So I eventually met you, and we eventually started playing together, and eventually you invited me back to your house to play music.
Yes. I think the first time I saw you play, you actually played drums. So I may have been under the impression that you were exclusively a drummer.
Oh, okay.
But I think that it was over time I realized that you played guitar, you sang, and you played keys.
Yeah.
You were bringing a bunch of different things when you first started going there.
Yep.
So you never knew what you were gonna play.
Yep. I realized the first time I went, I think the first time I ever went, I brought just a guitar. And I realized this collaborative nature of the open mics there. I was like, well, now I got to bring my U-bass and I got to at least bring my cajon, because then I can sit down and play hand percussion with people, and I can sit down and play bass for people, and I can always sing backups or do whatever. And that's kind of what I ended up doing. Most of the time now, I always have my cajon in my car. I always bring it in, and I always have my guitar on me. So
See, one of the things that is great about our music scene is that it does feel like this close-knit family. And what you do is something that I liked when I first started going to the open mics, which was sitting in with people that you didn't know, playing music, building a relationship, so now you know this person.
yeah.
And you did that a lot, and I liked that, because that's what I used to do when I first started going to the open mics.
I love it as well. I think music is meant to be shared, and the performance of music is meant to be shared. It's one of my favorite things to be able to sit down and work out a song. Like, I think I still remember the first time I sat down and played drums with Holly Forlone. We were both kind of apprehensive, but now, like, I'll go and see her on gigs, and she'll, like, right after she finishes a song, she's like, hey, do you have your box drum on you? And I'm like, yeah, of course, it's sitting in my car. We bring it in, we do some songs together. It's a great time.
And you earned that. And that's the great thing about it, is that it can be a little awkward if you're going to sit down with somebody that you don't know. But if you've already seen them perform before, and you know that they're good, they've already seen you perform before, that makes it easier. But when you actually do it for the first time, and it just works, then it's smooth sailing.
Exactly.
After that.
And it's so fun. I mean, I love being able to take a song that I already love, and I've listened to, and be able to maybe add a little bit to it, or even just like sit in and be a part of the sound and have it actually be something that people enjoy.
You know, I'm realizing as we're talking about this that not a lot of people do that. Most of the time when someone goes to perform, they will do their set, but they don't offer to sit in with somebody else. There are rare instances. I know that Ryan will sometimes sit in and play box drum with people. I think that John Eric would sit in with people.
Oh yeah, of course.
I know that you do, and I have in the past. But it's really rare. But it's one of the things that I like is people taking the risk and getting on stage and figuring it out.
Exactly. And just jumping up and figuring out a song. I mean, oh man, Chris Marcoulier likes to have me up playing box drum, and he'll do like crazy fast ska stuff. And I'm finding myself having trouble keeping up, and it's so crazy. And anytime I get up and play box drum with Ryan, and we do a song from like the Cursed on Earth catalog, I'm sitting there like, oh, how would Sean play this? But also, how would I add my own touch to this? Because you and I both know Sean is an incredible drummer, and nobody in the world plays drums like he does. So it's so cool to be able to like sit in and not fill those shoes, not even try to fill those shoes, but be like, all right, how would he feel this, and how would I feel this? And then see if I can add to that song. I think it's a really fun experience anytime I get to sit in with somebody.
Speaking of Sean, one of the things that I really enjoy about his playing is his physicality, because he is very interesting to watch visually in terms of how precise he is. And it seems like every movement that he makes is intentional, and the way he moves his body is part of the performance, and I really like that.
I love when he plays, I feel this like, it's almost as if waves are washing over him. You can see, because a lot of the time when I'm running sound for a band, I'll see the drummer moving and they're like bouncing their head. He doesn't bounce, he waves. And it's a really cool, like, you feel music completely differently in a way that it lends so well to Cursed on Earth's music. Like, when the whole group is together, there is nobody else like them. Shout out to them, obviously. Love Cursed on Earth.
I kind of feel like he's a sharpshooter in a way. So it's like when he's hitting the ride cymbal, he's hitting it in the exact same spot every time. And if he's not, it's because he's intentionally hitting it there because it's getting a different sound. And that's why he's not.
He knows his drums intricately. And he knows every single sound that can come out of every single part of those drums, which is really cool. I feel I've had my box drum since I was, I think, 10 or 11 years old, playing. I joined, or I went to Soulfest as a kid, and I begged my mom, like I sat in with this guy playing acoustic bass and acoustic guitar in this place where they were selling these handmade cajones. I was like, well, I gotta try it. I sit down, try one. I beg my mom. It's $150. I'm like, Mom, please, let me get one. Let me get one. She's finally like, fine, you can have one. Let's do it. Next thing you know, I'm getting pulled into a radio, like a little radio session with one of my favorite bands, just like playing along with them, which was cool. I was like 12. Then over the years, I've gotten to know that drum so well that, like, going back to how Sean feels his drums and knows exactly where to hit, I know exactly where to hit on the side of my box. I know exactly where to hit, like on the center or the sides, and where different parts and where to place my foot to try and even get certain notes sometimes. And I think something like that level of playing and that level of like focus on your own instrument is so fun to have, because it stops being an instrument. It just starts being an
extension.
An extension, yeah, a method of communication.
Yeah.
So
this is probably a good place to segue. Let's go a little bit further back.
Yeah, of course.
We've all got a musical journey.
Yeah.
So we've got you to Earth Eagle, but
Yep.
I want to know about the path that you took with music before you even got to Earth Eagle.
So my journey with music has been a very weird one. I started out as we had this cheap little piano sitting in our house, and growing up, I would always I'm autistic. I used to stim, and my stim was always drumming on things. Whenever I was nervous, whenever I just felt I had like a lot going on, I was drumming on something, much to my parents' chagrin. So they knew, okay, he's got something musical there. My dad tried to put me on guitar, but it hurt my fingers. It was just too much, so I ended up bailing on that. And then I finally found this cheap little like Yamaha piano that my older stepsister had. Started playing around on it, like figuring out, oh, this is a chord, this is a thing, and just starting to teach myself. Next thing you know, my mom gets a Mac computer, and I start diving into GarageBand, putting little orchestral things together, putting little ideas together, and just playing around with the idea of composing. Now, anybody who's worked in a digital audio workstation in composition, they know that as you learn a DAW, you're also teaching yourself piano a little bit more as well, because they're one and the same. You have to be able to play piano to input MIDI notes into a DAW. In most cases, I mean, you can also pencil them.
Yeah, there's other ways to do it. But
yeah,
the most efficient way is to use keys.
Yes, and that's how I learned to do it. So from there, I was making these songs, and I started uploading them to YouTube, just as a little like, oh, maybe people will like this. Eventually, I made this little orchestral piece called Face to Face that actually kind of blew up on YouTube. It got on some playlists, got over 500,000 views, which back in 2012, 2013, YouTube was a lot. And I used it as a sort of an audition piece to get into Plymouth State University's music technology program when I was graduating. For the longest time, I had been very much, I want to go into meteorology, I want to be a storm chaser, I want to be like on site, like sitting under a tornado watching it happen. Then eventually, it was like 2013 or 2014. I was in my high school's drum line, I was in my high school's jazz band, I was in the symphonic band, everything. I was like, this is what I want to do. And knowing that music is a very hard industry to make a living in, I said, all I want to do is be around music for the rest of my life. Whether I'm a producer, whether I'm a performer, whether I'm a live sound engineer, whatever it is, I just want to be surrounded by the creation of music. So I go to Plymouth. I meet a lot of amazing people there, including Mark G, and Will Bird, and a bunch of incredible musicians. And then I graduate from there. I go back, I start working as the recording studio manager there, and eventually start teaching courses there. Because throughout this time, again, I had started doing live sound. I had also been composing and just putting my music out there. And that experience led to me teaching there. Eventually, you know, Plymouth has a very weird music scene, especially post-COVID, where there are shows there, but there's not really places for shows. So I started branching out. I really, really wanted to start playing more, and I was starting to really get into singing and songwriting, especially during COVID and after. So I was like, I just want to play. I just want to like sing out, have fun, meet people, and play. And so I did. I started at like the Grotto, and then I started moving south. I'd always known that Dover and this area has an incredible scene. So that's kind of what led me to Auspicious. Eventually I popped over there, and the rest is history. So
it sounds like music has always been there.
yes.
And obviously, if you were active in band and orchestra in high school, there was some intention
Yes.
behind you being actively involved in that.
Mhm.
But it sounds like it wasn't until later where there was this shift in what you wanted for your life that music became your path.
Yeah, music's always been something that, like, for the longest time, music was how I got through it all. I as a, classic autistic kid in high school, I was bullied a lot. Elementary school, middle school, high school, and playing piano. And that feeling of disappearing into the piano, playing something from the top of your head and just ceasing to exist for 45 minutes, an hour or more, was how I just let everything go. So eventually it was just that switch to not only am I making music, but I'm making music that has now helped other people. And it is like done so much, not just for me, but for others, that I feel like if I were to just go into meteorology and give up on music and give up on focusing on music, I would be robbing myself of that. And I was afraid of that. Now, if I were to go back in hindsight, I could have always done meteorology and focused, but I also sucked at math. So I chose music. It was actually, I can't show it because I have to take my shirt off, but I have a tattoo here that I got when I turned 18. I turned 18 at the end of March. I got this tattoo in May, and it's a skin tear away with a treble clef underneath it. And it's basically saying, when you tear it all away, music's what drives me. This was me marrying music for the rest of my life and saying, this is all I'm going to do.
So let me ask you something. I didn't know it was going to go here, so I hope this isn't too invasive. Do you feel that being autistic gave you certain advantages in terms of how quickly you were able to pick up musical ideas?
I don't know. It's one of those things where I would have to be not autistic to know that. There's no real reference point there for me. I know that I picked up things very quickly by ear, and I've always been able to mentally map music very well. And I mean, the first time I sat down at a piano, I was playing chords and writing things and creating, and it just all spurred on from there. I think being autistic, being on the spectrum led me in, I guess, musical directions a lot, because I had a therapist as I was growing up, from basically kindergarten all the way through high school. And crazy enough, his degree was actually in music therapy. He helped me to explore myself musically, or explore my own emotions through music. I would write a song, I would bring it to him, and he'd be like, okay, there's this upward inflection here. Or there would be this moment of, like, I would bring him a song that had this profound sadness behind it, and he's like, what's going on? I'd be like, oh, I'm fine. And he'd be like, what's going on? Yeah, therapists have a tendency to do that. And then we'd have a great conversation about it. But a lot of him and I talking always centered around music, and music helped me to be able to understand myself at a deeper level as I grew into music and music grew into me. Going back to the question, whether it helps me to internalize or create ideas quicker, I have no idea. That would be a great question for a psychologist or somebody who is. That'd be a great question for Rick, actually, because he knows plenty about me. So.
Yeah, and I would imagine that he knows a lot about music as well. So
yes,
the combination of knowing about you and knowing about music.
He's a phenomenal musician.
Do you still have contact?
Yeah. So he lives down in Virginia now, but yeah, he's a phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's fast forward a little bit.
Okay.
Let's go past Earth Eagle. Talk about what you remember about the first time Alexandria and I performed there. Because I'm assuming that was the first time you saw us.
I remember, so I specifically remember you guys did Show You in 24 Hours. I remember those were the two that I was like, oh. And before that, there had been this talk. There were two people that a lot of my friends were like, wait until this person's here. There was Tim Bear and there was Alexandria. And the second I heard her voice and heard you playing with her, I was like, oh, this is what they were talking about. Because her intuition with music was really, really cool and very brilliant. And the songwriting and the way that you guys played the songs was very flowy, and it had nuance to it that was similar but different to a lot of the stuff that I already recognized. So it took me on a bit of an adventure the first time I heard you guys. And like it was really moving. I remember going up to Alexandria after and being like, that was incredible. Who are you? And next thing you know, like, we're really good friends, and yeah. And that was also, I want to say, one of the first real times I had gotten to hear you play. Because I think maybe you had played with somebody else at one point, but I was outside. Mm-hmm. So this was my first time really seeing you, and I was like, oh, this makes sense now. Everything just connected. Like, he's actually a phenomenal musician who plays with people he knows and just jumps in with people. I love this. And I think Alexandria had said, hey, I heard you play cajon with X, Y, and Z. You guys should jump up. You should jump up and play with us next time. And I think, yeah, I jumped up and played cajon with you one time. And then I don't know, did Jeremiah have his piano at one point? I might have played that, or was it?
There was a time when you played piano, and I don't remember if you had brought...
I had brought my piano.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I had brought my whole rig. I think it might have been like the third or fourth time I was at Earth Eagle. And I was like, I'm just going to bring my rig, see what happens. Because I wanted to play some of my songs on piano for a different feel. And yeah, I sat in with you guys doing that. It was incredible.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that. Obviously, we experienced it differently because we're different people. So I want to hear your perspective on that before I
yeah, of course,
insert my own.
Yeah, so sitting and playing with you guys on piano, the instrument I'm now on for the first time, figuring out the songs ended up being really easy. Except for the diminished chords. Those kind of killed me because I didn't know where they were and how they ended up being. But I was able to figure that out, I think, by like the third time we played together. But in general, like the key of the song, the tempo, things like that, all felt very intuitive. I think we did Show You, Back to Black. I think it was Show You, Back to Black, and one other, maybe. But yeah, so I sat in and it was so cool. I feel like we just locked in. It was this moment of, like, at first I was kind of awkward. I threw myself in there, like I started picking up the chords. But there was a moment when specifically you and I just kind of locked in on the rhythm as Alexandria was going. And then I felt, in you and I locking in, I felt her get more confident. And I think that was just the rest of the set right there, where we were just like, we have this communication where we're not even thinking about what we're saying. And this is really common in music, that like, especially in jazz, blues, things like that, where you're not speaking, you're not saying what's happening, but you're feeling it, and you guys are communicating through your instruments, communicating through the language of music. And it was just that for the rest of the time we played together. And it was really, really incredible, and I was super grateful for it.
Yeah. So in my recall, I thought that there was really good musical chemistry between us, and I think that's important because I've certainly performed with people where that chemistry isn't there, and have walked away from those situations not feeling like I was able to give my best. But I felt like even though you weren't necessarily familiar with the material, I felt like you knew more than enough to be able to make something work. And whatever you came up with would have been fine for that particular moment. I liked the depth it gave the music, because it wasn't just you mirroring what I was doing. And I could hear all kinds of potential in the songs themselves just by having another instrument there, not just any instrument, but specifically having keys in there, because that is what I've always wanted to partner with, is somebody to do that. And since you've been in the band, I've become a better guitar player because I now have to play different.
You have to think differently about what you're playing to make space.
I need to make sure that there's plenty of space for what your contributions are.
Yeah. And that was a big thing when I started playing with you guys, where I recognized quickly that you tend to pluck. Like you're very rhythmic in your playing. So and you're also like, you tend to stay either low on the neck or in the middle of the neck, but playing very in the mid. So I was like, all right, I'm going to play low end octaves, and I'm just going to kind of back it up. I'm almost going to pad what you're playing. And it made it easier for me, because then I could do things a little more simply. I could learn at my own pace while still being able to reinforce what you were doing. And I think part of that's really carried through. But I've also learned so much by playing with you. And then eventually when we added Josh to the lineup, like the musical communication we have, where I'll throw like little rhythmic touches, and the thing we do in Show You where we play off of each other in like the I Want You Here section, like that to me is such a key part of how we started playing music together. Yeah. Because it was this like echoing back and forth between each other that ended up being such a like core, almost like a core memory for me in how that song gets played. So
Josh was actually already a member of the band, even though we hadn't been working with him at that point. Only because one of the things that has always been a concern for me with Josh is how far he has to travel and whether it's a good use of his time when he gets here. And I kind of felt that we were in this stagnant place where we weren't really moving the needle forward. Yeah. And I didn't want him coming and us not making anything happen. So we took a little bit of a break from doing that. And once we connected with you, discovered that there was musical chemistry, discovered that there was an interest, and had you come over. It's like after you left, I said to Alexandria, he's the guy.
I remember Alexandria told me that the next time we came into practice, and I was like, oh man, it was this feeling of belonging that I like hadn't felt before, because like I'd played in this party band where we did one show in college, one like basement show, and it was a thing. It kind of happened. Then like I did this little thing like Vibes in the Attic with Marco, but Marco and my buddy Will, but like we hadn't really, I'd never really been a part of a band. And so the feeling of belonging that I got from that, and like the first practice in here to Alexandria saying what you had said and all that, I was like, yep, I'm ride or die. This is happening. And I mean, going back to it, the first time walking in this room and seeing this studio space, I was like, these people take it seriously. Nevin takes it seriously. You've put in the work. You love music. So I was like, this isn't just practicing in the basement of like a hobbyist musician who maybe puts like in less than an hour a week in, just kind of, yeah, I like noodling on a guitar every once in a while. Like your deep, deep connected passion for what you do is really, really inspiring from the second I saw this space. And also being a studio guy, seeing that over there, it's out of the camera, it's kind of in that camera. Seeing that over there for the first time blew my mind. I was like, this guy takes it seriously.
So, curious about whether or not you wanted to join, but once you said that you were in, that's when I reached out to Josh, and then we invited him back. Talk to me about what that was like.
Having somebody come in who knows so much about not just upright bass, but music theory and how to feel a song and like how to voice chords and how to arrange a chord progression, it was really, really inspiring to the point of almost being a little intimidating, where I was like, oh, this guy knows so much. He's clearly put in 10,000 hours and
Plus.
Yeah, exactly. 10,000 hours is an understatement to the highest regard for him. And after playing with him the first time, I was just honored. It was such a feeling of like, what just happened? Because there were so many different directions we went in that night. I remember it was very loosey-goosey that night, just like talking about some things. I think this around the time that we were working on YGMFU? Or
No, because Jake had joined
right
before we started working on that.
There was a song that we were working on we were kind of like revisiting or reworking at one point. And he gave some input that night. And I was like, that's really cool. Like I got to see how he thinks about music too, which was that practice was just really incredible. I felt honored to be in his presence with how much he knew and how much he could do and the way that he felt and the way that we musically communicated. It was really fun.
Yeah. He is into music.
Yeah, he's into music.
And he knows a lot. It's scary how much he knows, and his ear is really sharp. But like you said, he put in the work.
Yeah. Oh, he put in a lot of work.
He definitely earned what he has and what he can do.
Yeah.
And I consider myself lucky that he wants to come and hang with us.
Drive all this way up to hang out with us. It's so incredible. And like just being around him for the time that we are each week, I feel like I'm so much better of a pianist and a performer by being around him. His knowledge of music and the way that he communicates musically. It's like, you learn English your whole life and as, being a native English speaker, but then like you start talking with somebody who studied English and linguistics and has like a doctorate in English linguistics and talking with them and their command of the language. It's like, or even talking to somebody who learned English as a second language at the master's level. It's like, oh, like your command of this language is so deep, full, and intentional. Yeah, it's an honor getting to play with him anytime. Like I learn something every single time we're together. It's fun.
Yeah.
I mean, right off the bat, I think it goes without saying how I feel about Jake. Like
well, first of all, let's just to give a little bit of background. And this is probably more for my interview with him, but I've known him since he was like 15, and he would come in and play the open mic at the Stone Church.
Okay.
That's how long I've known him. And he was playing drums then, but he was one of those raw talents because he played multiple instruments, and even then he was a good singer.
Yeah.
But he was the last to join, and I know that Alexandria wanted him to be in this band sooner than he was. I was reluctant to bring him into the band because I knew that his number one priority was Proelium,
Yep.
and that's where it should have been. And he had joined us for the RPM challenge, and he wasn't able to see that through. So when she kept on asking me if we could have Jake play, I was like, no, because if we ask him, he's going to want to say yes, even though he maybe shouldn't.
Yeah, even if he
And
may
I don't
not
want
have the
to.
time
I don't
for it.
want to put him in that position.
Yeah.
But when he approached me and said, "I now have time. I really want to play with you," it was no question.
Yeah.
The answer was yes.
Of course. And having Jake finally, like, because I had already seen Jake so many times play and sing his music, I hadn't really seen him drum that much before. Seeing him sit down and then rip these songs was so, so cool. Like, that's one of my biggest brags to, like, other people when I'm talking about Congregation X. It's our instrumentation. Like, hey, we have the vocalist for a metalcore band or a hardcore band. He's our drummer. And you know what? He's one of the best vocalists I know, and he's also one of the best drummers I know. And then, like, everybody else that we have in this group, like, Jake is, I consider him to be one of my best friends because he's just such a good guy, too. Like, people that good, people with the amount of talent that he has on multiple instruments and his songwriting and his just brain for music, people of that caliber are usually dicks. I know this. I work live sound. I've met a lot of people. And it's like getting to know him has been just like a breath of, not even a breath of fresh air. Getting to know the whole scene has been a breath of fresh air. But like getting to sit down and have him join us and play with us and actually have him like stick around and want to keep like investing his time in this band, and not only investing his time in the band, but like also interjecting in conversations. Like when we get off track and during rehearsal, he'll be one of the ones to interject and be like, hey, let's keep it going. Like his investment, his mental investment, the amount of heart he's put into this group it's an inspiration. It like, there have been times where I've been like, oh man, I don't know, like my live sound work's picking up, all this other stuff is picking up. I don't know if I'll be able to see X. But then like I come to a rehearsal and I see the look in Jake's eyes, I see the look in your eyes, I see the look in Josh, and I see Alexandria saying, I'm like, no, this is this is priority numero uno. Like it's just this, you guys have made this like the best thing in the world. And Jake being a part of this, like, it still blows my mind that such a good singer can also play drums.
Yeah. I think that Jake brings a lot to the table. He has always brought a lot to the table. When he told me that he wanted to be a part of this, I was happy to have him on board. I wanted, more than anything else, I wanted him to feel comfortable.
Yeah.
To speak his mind, because I knew he was going to have opinions based off of experiences that he had in his own bands. And I wanted him to know that that was welcome. I didn't want him to feel like he was just a temporary placeholder.
Yeah.
I wanted him to feel like this belongs to him just as much as it belongs to us.
Yeah, for sure. And it's cool that we all have that level of investment in this group. It doesn't feel like, oh, it's my band or it's my band. It's our band. Like I feel weird because, you know, when you're in a band, the typical thing is, oh, my band. I still feel weird saying my band because it's like, but then I would have to say like to people, oh, you know, the band I'm in with Jake, Alexandria, Nevin, and Josh. Like that's a lot of words. But it still feels so weird to say, like, when talking to other people, my band.
Yeah, I don't say my band.
Yeah. Like, what do you say? Because I need to know.
I just usually tell people I'm in a band.
You're in a band, okay.
And
the band I'm a member of.
Yeah.
The band, okay.
Because I don't feel like it's mine, even though I'm
Yeah.
a founding member. I feel like it's ours, and I want it to be that because I think that in order to get the best out of it,
Yeah.
people need to feel a sense of skin in the game.
Oh, for sure. And like, I think when talking to other people, it's weird for me. I think it comes down to a linguistics thing for me, where it's like it's weird for me to say to them like our band, because then it makes me feel like, oh, you and I are in a band together, you know, Greg from Dunkin' Donuts. But like, I think that's going to be something I'll probably try out different phrasing for and be like, hey, the band I'm in, or, you know, I'll just say Congregation X, because eventually we're just going to be a household name in New Hampshire and New England anyway. So it doesn't really matter.
One can hope.
Yeah, it's going to happen. It's to me, it's not a hope thing. I've seen the looks on people's faces. It's not a hope thing for me. But yeah, I mean, seeing it's funny. I keep looking over at the drum set, like just imagining him there, because the snare's on the left side of the kit still, so it just makes sense. Like he's such a drummer. He's such a good drummer. He's so Jake.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't see the people that he was in a band with earlier, like when he was 15. But there was a guy that I was playing with at the open mic at the Stone Church, and it was all improvisational work because that person didn't like to practice, but he only performed original songs. So it was always improvisational when we got up there.
Good
And
practice.
so you've got these high school kids coming in and listening to us play, and they used to call me the wizard because it seemed like to them that I could do anything.
Well, you can.
Even though that's not true, but I think that
it's true.
it's true. I think that people base their perceptions on where they are in their path, and so if somebody can do things that they aren't able to do yet, I think that has a significant impact on them.
Yeah. And it's cool. I mean, whenever there's young talent that comes into a venue, being able to inspire, like, who could potentially be the next generation. Because you never know who the next Jake Russell's going to be. You never know who the next Nevin Brown's going to be. You never know who the next Ronnie Dio's going to be. But you're surrounded by them. Every single one of them could or couldn't be. So seeing musicians come in, aspiring musicians come in, people coming in and showing off their first song. Like, one of my favorite things about Earth Eagle is, and Stone Church too, it has the same mentality. It doesn't matter if it's somebody's first song, and it doesn't matter if it's not great or if it's like the best thing in the world. We all love it because we get to see somebody's process. And like, it's not just a thing where like everybody claps at the end of every song, even if it's great or not, because that's common courtesy. But everybody listens. Everybody gets into it. Everybody talks to the people after their set. And if they seem open to it, like, we even give pointers and we help them out a little bit. And like, that's building community right there.
Right.
Now,
I don't necessarily offer critique if I didn't like something. I only offer that if somebody asks.
Yeah.
But if somebody blows my mind,
yeah,
I make sure to tell them that.
Oh yeah.
Because I think it's important that they know that, especially if it's somebody that doesn't necessarily have a lot of experience.
Yeah.
I think it's important for them to know that they're having an impact on people, and what they're doing matters, so that they will continue to do it.
Yeah.
If that's what they want to do.
Exactly. If you love music, you have to keep making music. That's just what it is. That's what sharing music is. So it's really, really, I don't know. It's really cool seeing. I've got students at PSU right now who are from the high school that I went to. When I was a senior, the freshmen when I was a senior were the seniors when they were freshmen. So like, I call them grand freshmen in a way. But seeing them then come to PSU and start working on their own stuff and seeing that like musicianship grow in them, it's that same feeling of like you never know where greatness is going to come from until you actually see it happen. And it's one of my favorite notions. It's one of my favorite things, like seeing the spark in somebody's eye when they talk about something or when they play something. Seeing somebody start crying, not because they're having a bad time, but because they're getting out something that they've needed to get out for so long, and this song just happened to be the vessel for it. Mm-hmm. Like, seeing these moments for people, there's nothing like it. And the fact that we are a part of such a supportive community is, I mean, anybody who's a part of this community will say there's no other community like this in the world. Mm-hmm. And I would dare anybody to try and find a community like this. Well,
one of the things that I feel amazing about is the fact that some of my favorite songs were written by people that I know and consider friends.
Right? That is insane. Andy Klazensky or Ryan Walt, like Holly Forlone. These people write like, oh man, some of my favorite like hardcore songs are written by our drummer. Like, what?
Yeah.
It's so crazy. I love everything. I love everybody that we happen to just get surrounded by. It's so great. Yeah, it's a weird feeling starstruck for your own friends, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's nice to be in an environment where you can be.
That's true.
So, both you and Alexandria had never really been in bands before joining Congregation X.
Yeah.
Which I'm just realizing now, even though I knew that.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing what that means, that this is her first band. This is also your first band.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, obviously you have like the ensembles that you're in college.
Yep.
Like I've got, I had the Kennett High School drumline, I had Kennett High School stage band. Like and then in college I had symphonic band and a bunch of other things. Like I was learning to play with people, but like, when you're doing, say, Godzilla Eats Las Vegas or Johann Demeis, like Lord of the Rings Symphony, it's different than getting together with 5 people and playing just such cool music that you wrote,
Right.
And also being able to, on that note, like bring my music to this group and be like, hey, I've got this idea, we'll see how it works. Or like, here's this song that I released a few years ago, but like we can give it a try. Like I'd love to see how Congregation X feels it. And then have us nail it out of the park. It's like, it's such a cool feeling. It recontextualizes anything that I create to the point where I love creating stuff specifically for this group. So it's, for this being my first band, I think I got extremely like needle in a haystack lucky.
Well, I think that we got lucky too. You bring experience that is similar to mine, but it's deeper than mine on a lot of the things that I do, because a lot of the things that I do, I've sort of done them in isolation, whereas you've actually gone out and done those things. The experience that you bring to the table has helped us in terms of what we could potentially do in terms of outreach to other places that we could play. Things that we should be doing in order to be able to build some momentum online. That is experience that we didn't have, and I think that it's been beneficial for us.
Excuse me.
We also happen to play in an area where the community is extremely supportive, which is also a bonus. One of the things that Alexandria and I talked about is how exciting it is that if we're doing a show, to look out and see the faces of our friends that also play music, that are amazing, and they're just as excited to come and see us as we are to go and see them.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of special.
I love seeing our friends, like, especially when we do a new song, or like the first time we played Lessons and Regrets, or the first time we did the full trio, seeing how blown away everybody was and being like, oh, this is something special. Because, like, you can play your own song and sit in your room and feel amazing about it. And then you release it, and your best friend's like, yeah, maybe don't release that to the rest of the world. Maybe keep that on SoundCloud. But, like, when you get a whole room of other people, like, say our first performance at the Stone Church, when you get a whole room of people being like, what is happening here? This is incredible. It's such a validating feeling. It's like, oh, this is something that's not just, us getting in our own heads about something that's cool. This is something that's tangible. It's something that is real and that other people are, especially our friends, are like deeply enjoying.
Yeah.
And that's been like such a validating part of it.
I'm not gonna lie, I do find that to be a little overwhelming because that's just not how I see myself.
Mm-hmm.
I just see myself as somebody who has a part to play in contributing to something that's larger. But at the end of the day, the people that like us really like us.
The people that like us really, really like us. And I'm so grateful for all of them. I'm so grateful for every single person that, like, not only comes out to our shows, but, like, wants to keep coming to our shows. Like, the people that come and don't walk out and never come see us again. It's crazy. It's mind-boggling to me that, like, people like us this much. And it's... Yeah, I mean, I have crazy imposter syndrome. You could talk to Sarah about this any day, where I'm always saying, like, yeah, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I can take this next step. I don't know if I can do this thing. And then, but being in this group, it's so validating for that part of my brain to be able to play in front of these people. And we start the first song and I'm like, oh, I've got the jitters. I'm like not maybe feeling that great. I'm like, I'm going to mess up. But, like, being able to say to myself, I'm going to mess up and it's going to be hilarious probably, but we're going to have fun. And being able to do that and go into the show with that mindset and then see the faces on everybody, it's so fun. It's so great.
So I don't think about that as much because I know that when it comes to what happens on stage, we're going to be able to make that work. I think part of that comes from the environment that we foster when we're here in rehearsal. I try to make it so that everybody has a voice and feels like they're a part of this and that their opinion matters, so that even when there's conflict, and we know there is conflict, we can talk through that, and we come out the other side of that being better, having gone through it, as opposed to holding on to that. And that gives me a different level of confidence when I take the stage, because I'm going out with people that actually care about each other. And I think that's important.
I think any conversation we have about musical or communicative conflicts, like in this group or on stage, it helps us to just be better people. Like, it helps us to learn how we communicate in a fast-paced, we're playing a song setting. And it's certainly helped to make me realize so much about myself that I need to work on, or that, I can pat myself on the back and say that I'm decent at. It's sitting in rehearsal with you guys and also having you all having everybody in this group be so patient with each other and, like, ready to sit down and work on a song, but also just work it out. It's really gratifying, for sure.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what you would like for the future.
Any chance I have to make music with you guys is a chance to do something that 12-year-old me would have never thought possible. 12-year-old me had such bad social anxiety that he felt was gratified because I was on the spectrum, and I was like, there are certain communication things that I don't get. But, like, being able to, backtracking, I never thought I would be able to be in a band because of that. When I was in high school, like, there was the band clique, and then there were like the cool kids of the band clique who had their own band and did this whole thing, and I was like, I'll never be able to do that. But then to be able to like join this group and do that, it's really helped me to change how I see myself. I think going into the future, it's hard for me to say like any heartfelt things about what I would want to do, because I'm just happy to be making music. Yeah, we could do a East Coast tour, or we could blow up, we could start releasing, we could partner with like big producers and things like that, see what happens. But I think at the end of the day, it just comes down to, I just want to keep making music with you guys and keep playing, keep having fun, keep like seeing those smiles in venues, keep seeing those people just like, this is something cool. Having Sean say nice words about us, knowing how much he knows about the Seacoast music scene's history it's insane. And it feels like you're standing on the shoulders of giants whenever you're playing in the Seacoast scene. I mean, this is the place. You have Aerosmith from here. You have Ronnie James Dio from here. Like, you have some great musicians. You've got Godsmack from the area. Like, great musicians. So anytime like we're out playing, anytime we get a chance to play live and sell tickets or play a show that people come to, I'm always going to be grateful. I'm always going to be like, this is an opportunity that not everybody gets. This is an opportunity that I never thought I would have. I'm going to take this moment 100%.
I think that as a band, we may want to start talking a little bit more about our future to make sure that we have alignment there. But I will say, when Alexandria and I started this, it was purely about exploring the musical chemistry that we had in terms of what songs we could play at an open mic.
Exactly.
And then when I suggested to her that we could write some material, I've always gone about this trying to introduce her to new ideas because she didn't have the experience.
Yeah.
So that she could try something on and see if she liked it.
Yeah.
And could make a decision about, I want to do more of this. Because she'd been in some situations where she felt like the people that she was starting to work with were sort of using her.
Yeah. I remember that conversation. Yeah.
So I wanted her to be in control of the path.
Yep.
I just wanted to give her options.
Yes.
And now I feel like we've built something where it's going to be dictating the pace more than we're going to be dictating the pace.
We've built something bigger than us at this point. And it's a weird, I think in the past couple months, it's been a weird feeling, but not a bad feeling.
No, it's certainly not bad. I think it's an opportunity for us to sit down and talk about what we really want to do and where we really want to go. Because even though that isn't necessarily mapped out, I feel like we have the right people involved where we could potentially do anything.
We could really do anything.
So I want to be open to that, understanding what that means in terms of where sacrifices would have to be made in order to get us there if we get to a place where there's something in common that we want to achieve. What are the things that I need to contribute in order to help us get there?
Yeah. I mean, there's not a lot that I would give up being very close to getting a good North Shore beef for, but if we get to go, across the country and like tour and do things, like there's no way I would say no to that. We would make it work. But even just playing around New Hampshire, like the Hermit Woods Winery show that is coming up, I didn't know Hermit Woods existed, but then actually getting to like see the venue, look at pictures of it and think,
we're going to play there.
Yeah. My first experience in this venue isn't going to be like going to see one of my favorite like local artists play. It's going to be like, we're playing there. That's never been something that's happened to me. Like actually, No, that's a lie. That happened to me with the Stone Church because I had never been in there before, and then we played our first show there, and it's earth shattering. It's like this, oh, like this is happening, and then it's weird when you go there to see another show. It's like, oh, I've played here. Whoa. I think, yeah, going forward, whatever musically happens with us, I'm excited to see where it goes. I think it's really cool knowing that we have the Seacoast scene behind us like this. And the fact that like there are so many people in the Seacoast scene that haven't heard us yet. There are so many people in the New Hampshire or New England music scene that haven't heard us yet. But just the people that have heard of us, the response that we've gotten is really, really, it's nothing I would have ever imagined.
Me either. But it's all good, and I think that we've got the right group of people.
I think we do have the right group of people.
So I am happy to be on this path. So
great. I'm also very happy to be on this path. Thank you for letting me come in and like just start playing piano for you guys. Like, thank you for letting me sit in at Earth Eagle and letting it be something that grows into something like this. I would have never imagined. I mean, when I started playing at Earth Eagle, I had recently done a show, I think at Cup of Joe, and I was like, okay, it'd be cool if I start doing some solo stuff and maybe playing out and around, share my songs a little bit, but like never thought I'd be in an actual group that's like doing really well for the size of the group and like how new we are to the scene. So,
yep.
So grateful.
Parish Dawe, I really enjoyed that conversation. I want to thank Parish for taking the time to sit down and talk with me. I want to thank everybody for watching. We still have a few more of these to go, so I will see you next time.